Hey everyone, thank you for tuning in for another Broken Meeple review, and today is a bit of a surprise for me, because I knew nothing about this game. I didn't know if it was Kickstarter or not, I didn't know it was being released, I didn't know it was being pre-planned, it just completely went underneath my radar. All I knew was that AEG had published it. That's it. Knew nothing. Didn't know who the designer was, didn't know anything. It's just like, okay, this is a weird game, but okay, we'll go with it. It's called War Chest, and yeah, not a big fan of the name. Although, I can see why they used it. Yeah. They basically done the box out to look like a big chest. So fair enough, you're going to call it War Chest. Alright, but come on. Yeah. Not exactly mad on the name. But that's probably one of the only few negatives I can really say about this. So what exactly is this War Chest? Well, once you open it up, it is essentially an abstract strategy game. It can be played with 2 or 4 players. So it can't be played with, 3 players. So yeah, there goes my whole broken record thing. How to stop me going on about 3 players being the optimal way of playing? Make your game so that you can't play it with 3 players.
In bird culture, this is considered a dick move.
Seems to work. But this is abstract strategy where it's mixed with bag building. You have the standard kind of abstract goal of the game, which is to control several locations on a hex board. Nothing new there. You're using different units that each have their own special ability. Again, not something we haven't seen in other abstract games. But bag building is how you do it. If you've played games like Orleans and Altiplano and Automobiles, for example, you've seen bag building, or even Coffee Roaster for that matter. It's where you have a bag and you put tokens or components or something into that bag and you pull so many out and you perform actions with what you've drawn out the bag. It's basically deck building, except you're using a bag and components rather than your deck and cards. The same kind of nuances with a deck builder come into play here with regards to a bag, because you have to tweak your bag in such a way that it's efficient, as well as containing what it is you actually need. So to start the game, each player gets so many units. You have 4 each in a 2-player game and 3 each in a 4-player 2v2 game. It's not all against all, it's always 2v2. And each unit has a special ability that only that unit can do. But the way they're represented on the board is by way of these chunky coins. And the coins are drawn out of your bag 3 at a time, and with each coin you can do a particular type of action, depending on whether the coin is already on the board in some other form, or whether you discard the coin to your discard pile face up or face down. Face up allows you to do various actions with another similar coin on the board. Face down allows you to do things like claim initiative in the next round, like go first, pass, or recruit more coins into your bag eventually. And you can just simply place it on the board to either deploy it if there's nothing else already there of that type, or to bolster one that's already there, which essentially makes it tougher. That's pretty much the gist. Each player will take it in turns to do this with their coins, of which you have drawn 3, until everyone's used up all their coins. At which point, you then reach back into your bag, draw out another 3, and you rinse repeat. Once your bag gets to a point where you can't draw 3, all your discarded coins go back in the bag, you shake it up, draw 3 more, rinse repeat until somebody has controlled a certain amount of locations. I think it varies between the 2 and 4 player game. That's pretty much the gist. That is as simple as the general rules of the game are. The nuances and the slightly more complex area of the rules comes to understanding how each of the characters work, but a bit more on that later. Firstly, the look of the game. Well, it's a pretty decent package, game here. I'm used to AEG putting out huge giant boxes for things, and, granted, there's a bit of space at the bottom of this box, but when you see what's in it, you realise why it needs to be kind of propped up like this. But it looks essentially like a chest. It's got a keyhole on the front, it's got a war chest on there, designed by Trevor Benjamin and David Thompson, and, it does look the part. So, you see this on the shelf, you're going to think, interesting. It's not until you open the box, though. Which way have I got this? This way. It's when you open the box, you look inside, and you start drooling. If there is one thing I am a sucker for, it's when you get to manipulate giant coins or giant dice. If you've seen me talk about seasons, I go gaga every time I have to throw those giant boulder dice. Take a look at these. Let's see if we can even see them that well in the camera. Look at that. Hopefully there'll be a picture here as well. But these are, oh my god, these coins are amazing. They are, they're sturdy, I haven't tried to bite them, but, they're hard, they've got very simple, like, artwork on them. It's basically a symbol and a colour, but they look so striking. They, whoop, dropping them everywhere. They sound great in your hand, they sound even better in the bag. I mean, let me grab and the bags themselves are pretty decent as well. I mean, we'll get the board out of the way. Board's pretty generic, but, board is what it needs to be. But the bags, green velvety bags, with a, embossed gold logo on them. Drop some of the coins in there. Oh, all good sounding, drawing them out. Draw your free, keep them in your hand, and decide what you're going to do. I mean, it's better than holding a bunch of cards to hold these things, but love them. These coins are amazing. And on the back, you've got a nice little intricate design for, essentially the key for the war chest itself. Now, theme-wise, as I mentioned, it's called War Chest, but there's some blurb on the box in the lid here, which has like a little story about why this war chest comes into play and what you're actually holding. Yeah, too long, didn't read, don't care. It's an abstract game. Don't try to insert a backstory or a theme onto this. It's an abstract war game. Deal with it. That's essentially what you're getting here. But I like a good abstract game. I'm all about this. I want theme in my games and everything, but, Onitama, and various other abstract games, Yinch, and lots of others, I like a good, solid two-player abstract game. Although in this case, you can play 4. Now, with this one, like with other bag building games, you have that whole, let's see if I put it here. There we go. That's good. You have the same nuances you have with other bag building games. It's not just a case of, well, I might as well just recruit, this guy and this guy and this guy, get them all in my bag straight away. Because you're only drawing 3 at a time. You never draw more than 3. There is nothing in this game that allows you to draw more coins. So you've always got those 3, which means you only have 3 actions each round. And each one of those actions is critical. You do not realise this until sort of partway through the game, but knowing when to use a coin face up or face down or do something on the board with it is key. There's a lot of strategy in this game, despite the fact that the rules themselves are not particularly complex to learn or get to grips with. You quickly realise that certain things like, bolstering your units at the start of the game is probably not the best idea, and, you want to get out and start fanning out, but then, if you're too weak, your opponent's going to kill off your units. If they've got ranged units, you've got a problem with getting up close without getting cut off. And as well as tweaking your bag to be efficient, like, let's see, I've got 9 coins in my bag. That means I'm going to draw 3 times, I'm going to get all 9 of my coins, and that should be good. Oh, if I recruit a 10th coin, that's going to throw the scale off. You're making little decisions like that. But on top of this, you get to see what your opponents are doing. When you discard a coin to the discard pile, you choose face up or face down depending on the action you do. And the reason that's important is because you get to see everybody's discard pile. So I discard a couple of coins face down, you don't know what I've got coming later. Whereas if I discard things face up, you can tell that I've got rid of a certain type of coin. And when you can see how many people have got left to recruit, and there's only a finite number of coins for each one, usually about 4 or 5 coins for each particular unit, you start being able to puzzle out what your opponent can do in retaliation to you. For example, I might be thinking, oh, that archer there, he's in a nasty position. If I move too close, he's just going to kill off my guy. What am I supposed to do? And then you notice that there are 3 coins left in his recruit pile, one of them is on the board, and he's just discarded the other one. So, that means his archer's not going to get going for at least a couple more rounds. In that case, move on forward. The archer's sitting dead for a while. And that's a bit of a weak example, because, it's not often you would let yourself get in that position, but you start noticing these things, and you gamble. You think like, well, let's take that archer example again. Let's say there's 1 more coin in his bag. That's an archer. He's already used the other one. But there's 6 coins left in his bag, or roughly about that much. He's got 1 in his hand, the rest are in his bag. Do you think he's holding on to that archer? Do you think it's going to come up later? What are the odds? And you gamble with this. There's a lot of depth to what is a fairly simple abstract game, and I love it when you have simple rules, but with a lot of depth. This is certainly one that's going to reward repeat plays, particularly with the 4-player game. The 2-player game is solid enough. 1 versus 1, you each get 4 units, go at it. Very quick, not that long a game, although I wouldn't call this super fast either. This isn't going to be like a 20-minute game. This is going to take at least about half an hour. And for a 4-player, you're probably looking at a good hour, particularly for your first game, because it can take a while. People can AP, there's a lot of actions, it can take a bit of time, but for an hour tops, that's not a bad length for a game like this. But with the 4-player one, it's very strategic, because if you communicate with your with your opposing player too much, well, they can hear your strategies. So you've got to try and, communicate in a way that doesn't instantly say what it is you're going to do. So sometimes you have to react to what your teammate's doing, and opportunities arise, you seize them as they come. Obviously, with a 4-player game, you've got 3 units, your teammate's got 3 units, and the other team have got 3 units each. So there's 6 units that your team has, and the opponent has a different set of 6 units. No duplicates. You never duplicate in this game. If I've got light cavalry, they don't. If they have an archer, I don't. And so it creates a whole new realm of strategic choices that you must make, and a few odd bits of yelling as a result as well between teammates and against each other. Now, when you're using this many powers, you might be thinking, well, hang on, what's the balance like? I've played a few games of this, and as far as I can tell, they seem very well balanced. I'm not going to go out here and say every single one is perfectly balanced mathematically. There is nothing that is more powerful than the other. But you need to play a lot of these games to really account for that. And some do synergize better with others, but you pick up these combos as you play each game. You get like an archer and a crossbowman in your team, and it's like, ooh, I've got a lot of range here. They're not the best at controlling locations, but I can set up a good defense. But then you might have all the cavalry in one time, and it's like, right, well, I'm pretty speedy, but I'm quite weak to range. I must make certain I don't get caught out. And you come up with all sorts of weird and wonderful combinations with all these units. And the fact that there are, I think, 16 in the game, and you only use 12 in a 4-player game, and only 8 in a 2-player game, there's a good amount of replay value with the combinations of cards you can have. And there's so many. I mean, you saw the coins here. Each one of those, bar a couple of them which are like initiative coins, are a separate unit. There's a lot in here. And the units themselves, they're represented on cards. The graphic design is pretty easy enough to follow. But, you've essentially got, they're kind of in the bag, but I'll show a picture as well. But, the sturdy card, it's very clear. It shows a pictorial example of how the piece moves, and it will also show whether it's got a special ability you need to know of, that's constant, and also whether it moves or fights in a special way by its tactic being its own unique special ability. Now, of course, you may get some people, and I have played with these people, where they will moan relentlessly thinking, oh, your guy's overpowered and mine's underpowered, and that's why you're winning.
Stop whining.
That's not a fault of the game, that's a fault of the player. I'm sorry, from what I have seen, there are plenty enough ways to be good with particular units. I can't think of a single unit in here that I would consider rubbish. You just have to know how to use them. And you're not going to realize that on your first game. Like I said, this one rewards multiple plays. So don't think that you're going to master this after a couple of games of using the units once each, because the combinations will keep switching. One day I've got the light cavalry with an archer, and suddenly that worked quite well together. But then the next day I've got the royal guard with scouts. Oh, okay, that's different. And then next game I've got the scout, but now it's with a lancer. How can I use that to my advantage? So you're always coming up with a different way to play. No game ever feels the same. There's nothing to worry about on the board with fiddly rules or anything. It's just, there's a location, go and capture it. It's an action. No problem there. So, lengthwise, as I mentioned, you're talking 30 minutes to an hour. It's not a bad length. Might be a bit long for your first 4-player game. Maybe more than an hour, so I would be careful about that if you're just learning the game. Maybe ideally just play it 2-player to learn the game and then work your way up to 4. But like I say, it's not overly more complex with 4. It's just more people making decisions, and some people can AP as a result. But all I can really say is, there's not much else to say. That is pretty much the gist. Draw the coins, tweak your bag, do stuff on the board, try and control several locations, win. Go again if you want. And to be honest, I like to go again as soon as we've done with a game of this, because this is what has to definitely qualify as one of the biggest surprise hits for me this year. Not joking. Knew nothing about this game. It just literally came out. I saw Tom Vassel's review and I was like, what on earth's this? I've never even heard of it. Saw he was buzzing about it as well. So I thought, okay, this premise sounds good. I gotta look this up. Came out, grabbed a review copy of it, and I'm in love with it. I really do really like this game. It's I don't know, I feel it's innovative because bag building in an abstract game, that's not something we've seen yet, to my knowledge. You know, Coffee Roaster's got a reasonable theme with it. It's a bag building game, but it's not something I would call an abstract game. And bag building's normally been with things like Autoplano and Orleans. It's typically a Euro mechanic. I mean, we even had it with, as I mentioned, automobiles. You know, the racing came combined with bag building. That was pretty innovative. But to use this, it's something about not just the replay value, not just because it looks gorgeous and it's got funky coins that I just can't resist grabbing in my hand, but it's how those free coins you draw, the choices you make are almost agonizing. It's almost to the levels of like Hanamakoji levels of agonizing because you've got the free coins, but what do I do? You think, all right, let's see, what have I drawn? I've drawn 2 shieldsmen and a scout. I don't know shieldsmen, I think I'm just guessing from the symbol. But, you know, what do I do with them? I've only got 1 scout here. I want to put it on the board, but then I can't do anything with it. I could put one of these on the board and then do something with it, but I need to get some more coins in my bag. You know, maybe I should discard the scout face down and do that. All this is going through your head as you're trying to decide what to do for 3 actions around. Just 3. And I love the fact you don't draw more than 3 coins, because I think if there was something in here that made you draw like 6 coins in the round, the AP would just get to ridiculous levels. Keeping it streamlined and simple to 3 coins, flat, no reason whatsoever for it to change, just works. Streamline rules, and the rules are pretty simple to follow. There was not much ambiguity, apart from maybe 1 or 2 units were a little bit like, exactly how do they work? But there's enough FAQ online for you to find out, and to be honest, every time people got confused about a rule, I made an assumption based on what the picture and the text was saying, and it turned out I was right each time. That's not a bragging thing, but, you know, pretty much what you think it is, it's likely to be. And a lot of the times people were making ambiguous decisions on it, they were mainly trying to break the game rather than actually taking it seriously. You know, like, why does this not move like this? And it's like, look at the bold text. It's telling you that because it's that key word, it relates to this, not that. And, you know, it's generally pretty easy to follow. So, I can't really say much more. War Chest is a solid hit for me. It's one of my favorites I've played this year. You know, if we get onto the top 10 of 2018, like right now, this would be pretty high up it. It just does what I want in an abstract game. Streamlined rules, looks great, lots of strategic and tactical choices. And the fact that I can play this with 4 players as well as 2 is even better. Yeah, granted I can't play it with 3, but I don't see how you would make 3 work. You'd have to do like 2v1 or like 3 all against all, but the map doesn't really lend itself well to it, so I'm pretty glad that they just went with 2 and 4. But of course, you're going to have to tailor your play times for that. So, War Chest, love it. Solid. People have been screaming for my number rating to come back, so yeah, why not? Number rating for this, personal rating for me, War Chest, I think, I've got to say, I can't really think of any faults with it. It does exactly what it says on the tin. I really enjoy playing it. Not saying I'm going to play it like endlessly all the time, but each time I do play it, I get a kick out of it, and it does what I want. So yeah, it gets a solid 10 out of 10 for me. It really does do exactly, well, or it doesn't do exactly what it says on the tin. It's called War Chest. But, you know, that whole bag building with an abstract war game just gels so nicely. And granted, you know, some of that is helped by the fact that, you know, cosmetically, the components are solid. You know, there isn't a bad component in here. You know, the board is decent enough. It works for an abstract. The rules, nice and simple, nice small book. It's packaged well. Granted, you have this like cardboard bit at the bottom, which literally is a bunch of wasted space, but it allows for the coins to sit neatly at the very top of the chest with a plastic cover on it. So, you know, the coins are nicely packaged. They sit at the top of the chest, meaning I can store it vertically without any problems. And it also means that they don't have a chance of like the things slipping off and all the coins falling out. So kudos for AEG for doing that. So that's War Chest. Great game. 10, Can't think of anything better. I want to show this to Dice at the Game Cafe. I want to show them this game. I want them having it in their library because I think this is because it's not that difficult. It's a gateway level, I think. It's, well, gateway-ish. Maybe a next step. The rules are not complex, but I think you throw a brand new gamer into this, they might be like, oh my god. But certainly a next step. It deserves to be in a game library because it is almost a pick up and play game. You know, probably even close to that. So that's enough bragging. War Chest. Solid, great game. That's it for me. And remember, as always, just remember, no matter how, you know, whether you think these units are overpowered or underpowered, just don't whine about it. Remember, it's only a game. See you next time, guys. Take care.
Stop whining.